Birds of a feather, they all flock together. Why does that always sound like such an indictment? In the 1963 Alfred Hitchcock film, The Birds, it was a story about birds all flocking together. It was a message about nature retaliating against mankind. It's not a new story, but it's also the idea of us all chirping together. We all react mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. These are all different voices, all going on at the same time. Different chirping, all vying for our attention. We must be hearing God's voice in there somewhere, but more often it's just the voice of a very strong chirper or even our own voice chirping away. Often in the process, we try to stomp out all those other voices, but we have also the trauma of past events that also linger in our narrative and that can trigger us into our fight, flight, and shutdown mode. This is where we all need to have some situational awareness, both within and without. Yes, we might not all be chirping the same chirp, but we're all chirping together. Welcome. Welcome to Illinois Bridging Awareness. I'm Stanley Smith. Sometimes you need to get people's attention. We all experience reacting to that, but there's a difference between reacting and being aware. Annie Grabone talked a couple weeks ago about trauma and the cycle of trauma living in our central nervous system. Things can set that off over and over again. Anything can set it off. It's the being awake, aware, and taking action. Dave Buck shared that a lot of trauma lives in our spinal cord, and that instead of looking at our spinal cord as a structure, we need to look at it as a gland, because that's actually what it is. Trauma lives in our system, and not so much in our structure. We can release it from our system when we learn to be aware of it. Part of that is realizing that there's a difference between our brain and our mind. It's the difference between the gland of our brain and the awareness of our mind. There's a difference between our feelings and our emotions. When we're aware of this, we can step aside from our reaction and step into our presence of mind. In presence of mind, we're teachable and correctable. And in this space, we can lean into the sovereignness of God and the small portion of that which we are ordained to experience. None of us can be less enough of ourselves to hear all the voices of others. And that's why we're always disappointed that we never feel completely heard by others, because they can't be less of themselves enough to give us the space we need. That's only because Christ alone was only the only one able to be less enough of himself to do that. But instead of leaning into that, we perpetuate our scarcity model of good and evil, right and wrong. And in the process, we're always looking for the bad guy, the other, and the problem person or group we need to get rid of. It never ends well. Plus, as soon as we get rid of that one person, there always seems to be one more person to get rid of. Recently, we had a person in our group who was disrespected on a Saturday call. They expected an apology and a guarantee it would never happen again. One of the most maligned literary quotes in literary history is from Eric Siegel's 1970 screenplay for the film Love Story, when the main character said, "Love means never having to say you're sorry." If you offend someone and then tell them that you never need to say you're sorry, it might be the same as asking to have your head cut off. I can't apologize enough or say I'm sorry enough. Plus, offering someone a guarantee is something probably none of us can really do. I've been fired from this volunteer job twice, and I suspect I'll probably be fired again. Birds of a feather, they do flock together for good and for bad, and it all usually works out fine until there's an interrupter. An interrupter usually comes in the form of someone who's seeking money, power, or control. It happens over and over again. We all hear the chirping of others, and we have our own internal chirping going on. Plus, God is calling to us through all this noise. Are we hearing his voice or mistaking our own voice for his? How much time do we spend listening for the voice of others, rejecting the voices of others, listening for our own voice, our own personal voice, and listening for God? I think we know the answer to that. Plus, we can see how it's all corrupted by the pursuit of gain through power, money, or control. Often our brains are figuring out what's best for us in the short term. Our mind often takes a back seat. Emotions, they often get the VIP treatment and are escorted right up to the front of the line. And our spiritual soul selves, well, they're often relegated to something akin to a leisure time activity. And we'll get around to God as soon as we get everything else taken care of. God believes in us because we are teachable and correctable. It's hard to see our own mistakes, but easy to see the mistakes in others. Why are we always attacking each other? It's the autoimmune disease of trauma. Someone mentioned that trauma is often the cause of allergies, and that if you have one allergy, it's very likely you will manifest more and more. Are we going through people like allergies? Dividing ourselves is a big distraction. We all need to see that one more video, talk to that one more person, and be outed as the bad person or respond to that one more text. Are we encountering confrontational people in the process? Probably. And what is that all about? There's probably something else going on there. These people always seem to know everything and be able to tell us exactly what we should be doing. And where is the humility in that? It's always a qualifier. We can't create a new thing in that space because there's no space there. A couple of weeks ago, Carol Kerr led us in an exercise of rubbing our hands together, pressing together, and then opening it up and creating a space. Rubbing our hands together, pressing together, then opening up a bigger space. It was a terrific exercise of creating space. Last weekend, when I was in the park, there were a lot of chirping birds in all the surrounding trees. It was many voices, not all the same voice. Each bird was listening for the call of its own kind and then answering back and then calling for one more. We all have our own unique voice. God is calling to us in a voice that we can understand. Sometimes we conflate the voice with our own voice, and it's difficult to tell people what to do because of this, because they're hearing it in their own voice. It's often best to share our own personal experience and what we have seen with our own eyes and heard with our own ears. And in that, we can do that with love. And in the process, God's voice is most likely to be heard. If we listen closely, we can hear others, and we can hear there's a difference between our own voice, their own voice, and God's voice speaking through all of us. And if we listen to others intentionally, we can hear the love of God in more voices than we might ever have imagined. Be in relationship with yourself, mind, body, and spirit. Be in relationship with one another, and then invite one more. Our body has put us in this time and place. Our brain has decided something for us today, and our mind has put us in this state. God believes in us because we're teachable and correctable. None of us want to have our faults pointed out, and we need to see our own mistakes and take responsibility for them and find correction through our own personal relationship with God. Love means never having to say you're sorry, and there's no guarantee. Life is risky business, and we're all risk takers. Birds of a feather, they do flock together. And in the park, I wondered, well, what are all these birds? What are they up to? And as I watched them for a while, I realized that many of them were building nests and attending to the relationship of their family. If we believe in the news, then we need to take a look at what they're building. What are the actions they take, and what are the results of those actions? If you believe in the government, then take a look at the actions and results of that. And if you're involved in a personal relationship, then take a look at the actions and results. And if it's working, terrific, then invite one more. And if it's not working, well, then it's probably time to build a new nest. But if it is working, like I said, invite that one more into the relationship and then invite another. At Illinois Bridging Awareness, we're building that new nest in the assembly, and we're having a good experience in the process. We're seeing good results of the relationship, people coming together in real and authentic ways. Plus, we're doing something. We see what's going on, and we're taking action. Consider engaging on our platforms and consolidating into the Slack platform so we can capture the best of the best materials to share with others and be in relationship with each other, and then invite one more. Yes, we all have a lot to chirp about. Problems and issues are all very real concerns. We all have our own unique voice, but we can all flock together, and we can all do that together. If you would like to join us at Illinois Bridging Awareness, the Saturday call is every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.